for starters, I want to make clear to everybody that when we started this channel, Gavin and I were so gung-ho about the People's Party. We were in the same camp as every single person who was super stoked and super ready to get after it, right? I mean, we literally built our entire channel on the back of this idea. We were the first, of the small new class of YouTubers to get really into, covering that up. But we got in there. We were super fucking invested in it. We had many of the people who were involved in that big summit on our show to speak. We followed it up. We hyped the shit out of it. We were speculating who would they run for president, who would they run for Congress, what would they do at the local level. And over time, we realized that the answer was nothing. And so that was also disheartening. That was also extremely frustrating. And we were like, well, what do we do now? We then were flooded really with messages from former volunteers who, raised a bunch of grievances about how this was Nick Brana and his friends ruling a supposedly Democratic Party with an iron fist. We pointed out a lot that they originally marketed themselves as a party with a horizontal management structure. That was quickly changed. There was no vote on it. There was no vote on anything from the People's Party. And, over time, we were able to get our hands on some of their tax filings. We were able to see like how much money do they have to work with and how is that money being allocated. And clearly it wasn't being allocated to go towards candidates that were going to be actually making a difference, which is kind of ironic that they're stalling when their whole point of the People's Party was urgency and the need for action, like a lot of people have pointed out. And right here, just to quote Paula Jean Swearengin, they were purging staff, board members, and volunteers with open, serious grievances against Nick Brana. Sounds exactly like what we heard from the former members that had the courage to speak out months ago and be smeared by big names in the lefty YouTube community. People would come out and unjustly call them, infiltrators and smear merchants and just like, people from Our Revolution LA with a bone to pick. I'm like, no, I talk to people from New York City. I talk to people from Philadelphia. I talk to people all across this fucking country, not just Our Revolution LA that had like a personal beef with Nick Brana. No, we did our fucking work. And you guys can listen to all of those people that we documented on our show, allowing them to speak. You can look at all of the multiple times we've requested to have Nick Brana come on and defend himself when he was a coward and he wouldn't, because he knew that we would break his balls and not accept his bullshit excuses. Shout out to Case Study QB, a legend on left Twitter. You guys had great and fair coverage of the MPP infighting and actually invited Nick, but he's always been nowhere to be found. Exactly. That's never a good sign, right? It is what it is, guys, but we all need to come together now and realize this is not the solution. This was a game. This was a grift in the purest sense of the word. Actually, I got to give credit where credit's due. I actually heard it described best by Ryan Grimm, who's another person who's been reporting on this for a while, guys. As much as you might not like it, he also called this correctly. And he said that what the whole ambition of this was to take a bunch of people who were accurately disillusioned with the Democratic Party and fed up with the positioning of the progressive movement and turn them into marks for channels on YouTube to extract monetary value from them and keep that invested away from the Democratic Party. That's exactly what the fuck happened, guys. That's exactly what the fuck happened. That's why they weren't concerned about getting any actual elected officials done. Spots on the Jimmy Dore show were good enough, right? Like that's the reality of the situation. People want to drag Paula Jean Swearengin because she took money from the People's Party. It became her fucking job. And now she is clearly taking the time to speak out, remove herself from the party. And I'm proud of her because for a while I was a little sus about Paula Jean Swearengin. I was like, what happened to the knock down the house Paula Jean Swearengin that was a coal miner's daughter and, didn't give a fuck? Like there she is, man. So I was glad to see that.
Yeah, 100%. And thank you, John Smith, for the $5. Really appreciate that. And we will keep up the good work. But yeah, this is a disappointing story for so many reasons. We had Jimmy Dore on our podcast maybe about a year ago as well. And we asked him directly about these organizers. I think you actually asked him, Zach, about the complaints that had been leveled against the People's Party by a numerous, handful of ex-volunteers who we talked to on our show, because we actually do real fucking journalism when we get the opportunity to. He told us they were bad faith actors. He wrote off the volunteers that were raising these complaints. He said they were, there was allegations that they had been bad faith actors. Nick Brana went on shows like Jackson Hinkle and Lee Camp's show to basically smear these volunteers as assets of the Democratic Party or, bad faith actors. Are we going to hear an apology from these folks? I'm serious. Are we going to hear an apology from the likes of Jimmy Dore, Lee Camp, Jackson Hinkle, these people that ran cover for Nick Brana, had him on their show to run his mouth and tell lies about workers, volunteers for his fucking party? Meanwhile, these folks never had the actual volunteers on their shows to tell their side of the story. Our channel and Frank Analysis are the only ones that did that shit. The only fucking ones that did that shit. So I also want to shout out our homie Franco, who we obviously don't always agree with on everything, but he actually had the fucking balls to stand up to this bullshit and call it out. What was obviously fucking real, what was obviously fucking happening. There is no evidence that these workers, these ex-volunteers, were paid off, were assets, were in any way acting in bad faith or had ulterior motives. There was no evidence ever presented to that effect, and they were fucking smeared by people that I used to have a lot of respect for. And to be honest, I still do have a lot of respect for some of these people. I think Lee Camp, for example, has done great journalism, but it's downright fucking disgraceful. It's journalistic malpractice to have on the CEO to give his side of the story and to smear workers, and then to ignore those actual workers, ignore their stories, let it all fall on deaf ears while you promote the fucking CEO of this company, which is exactly what it is. And the worst part about it is that we're third party guys. We support the third party goal. And this whole People's Party fucking charade has taken money out of the Green Party's pockets. It's taken attention away from the Green Party and the socialist alternative, and every actual leftist third party that's been actually doing the real work, trying to break the duopoly and elect real candidates, which MPP, which has existed for 5 years now, seemingly has no plan to do after lying and gaslighting their followers multiple times that, oh, we're about to announce our slate of candidates, we're about to run some candidates. Bullshit. They still haven't. They haven't announced any plans to do that. And recent filings financially have revealed that all the money has just gone to fill their own pockets. This is absolutely fucking disgraceful. And again, not to toot our own goddamn horns, but it's pretty fucking embarrassing that we were like basically one of two channels on YouTube that actually called this shit out accurately. It's really just disappointing. And as I tweeted here, we wrote this expose of the People's Party in May of 2021 after lengthy conversations with ex-volunteers who were smeared as bad faith and assets, again, by the likes of Jackson Hinkle and Jimmy Dore. Turns out these activists were 100% correct, and so were we, actually having the balls to report on this. And the journalist that ran cover for Nick Brana and ignored the volunteers should be ashamed. That's not what a fucking journalist does, at least not a leftist journalist. So I think this really calls for some serious introspection from these folks, and at least an apology to the ex-volunteers who put themselves out there and took this fire and were smeared and probably had their DMs filled up with fucking morons accusing them of untrue, false things that had no evidence behind it. These people are the actual ones that had the balls to stand up to this and talk about how they were being abused as workers. And I go on to say, shout out to Lisa Pfeiffer, Joe Charest, Renee Johnston, Steve Coleman, and Camilla Harris, all of which who came on our show and gave their side of the story, exposing what was actually going on at the People's Party. Again, they were lied about, they were smeared, they were called bad faith inside actors. And now Paula Jean Swearengin is coming out almost a year later to confirm what was initially being said about Nick Brana and the People's Party. After several questions, I will confirm People's Party USA is purging staff, board members, and volunteers with open, serious grievances against Nick Brana. This is happening after months of retaliation. Obviously, I withdraw my support. And as I was saying to Zach the other day, this means it's really bad, guys. For her to come out here and make this kind of public statement admonishing Nick Brana and the People's Party, that means shit is bad. She would have much preferred, I think, to have just quietly, gracefully exited the People's Party if she realized something wasn't right. But the fact that she put out this strong of a statement means that it was bad, guys. It was fucking bad. She saw some bad shit and she felt the need to take to Twitter and expose it. And basically now we're seeing just the complete end of the People's Party. There will be no serious People's Party after this. Obviously, it wasn't even a serious fucking organization to begin with, but now it's really over. And again, the worst thing is, instead of getting any apologies, instead of getting any retractions like a serious journalist would do, these people that smeared the volunteers, and I've named them by name multiple times now, they will quietly let this go. They'll probably never fucking talk about it again. They'll probably never admit that they were wrong, and they will never apologize to the workers, again, the actual workers who were voicing their complaints against the leadership, against the CEO Nick Brana, who we've been telling you for months is a fucking snake.
Yeah, man. Look, that's the reality of the situation. It's super fucked up because, and the reason, and people are like, if you don't understand why this is so frustrating and so aggravating, because this was all real energy that was squandered, right? And it feels like it was squandered by a conniving bastard who had nothing better to do than fucking vacuum up a bunch of money from desperate, disillusioned people who did not want to participate in the oligarchic system that was presented to them very rationally, and then just vacuumed up their donations that they thought were going to real serious projects, put on a couple of fucking YouTube productions that you could do for very little money, and then pocketed the rest. And that's exactly what happened, guys. I swear to God, go look at all the IRS report. Spending money on stupid shit like Amazon Video, all kinds of stuff. It's like there's no way that you can argue that this was like a good faith operation. It wasn't even like the money was going to salaries and then the people were doing. No, you can literally watch and see how the funds were allocated. If you donated to the People's Party, I highly recommend you go ahead and take a look and see how your funds were used and see if that's something that you feel good about. If you're pissed off, you have every right to be pissed off. And Gavin and I are not here to admonish anybody who, supported the People's Party or even threw fucking shade at us when you thought we were full of shit, because a lot of people who have a lot of clout and authority in this lane refuse to do actual journalism, right? And that's what's really frustrating, right? Like I'm pissed at people like Jimmy Dore, who should have known better, right? And I'm a little pissed at myself. I should have come down way harder on Jimmy Dore when he tried to push back and call these people smear artists. We hadn't been doing this podcast very long. I was definitely way too timid. It's something I need to work on as an interviewer. So I'll take that heat. I should have pushed back and said, oh, what's your evidence for that being smears? Because that's what he said. He was like, Zach, we've heard a lot of things that was just smears. And I kind of nodded and I was like, oh, I've talked to some people that, don't feel that way, whatever we said, but we let it go, right? He started talking about something different and the conversation got away from us. And I think about that a lot and how I should have done better. So this isn't just time for me, to get up here and like jerk myself off. There are things that I could have done better in my reporting too. But it's just frustrating that it seems like everybody was so fucking shit scared of Jimmy Dore in the poll that he has with the entire audience on Left YouTube, that they were not willing to just set that aside and say, hey, we have to talk about this. And so every single person that didn't want to lose access to Jimmy just said, oh yeah, let's have Nick Brana on, let him run his fucking mouth, say whatever the fuck he wants to about these working class people that have real grievances, documented grievances, like we aired on our hour and some change long panel with all of these, again, courageous protesters, and not just protesters, ex-volunteers, people who were literally working for no pay to make the People's Party bring it to a reality. We're talking to guys like Jerry Perez, who was literally pouring his heart and soul into this, working tirelessly, was devastated when this didn't work out. And that was almost 12 months ago when he split. And, he was one of the first people that actually reached out to us and was like, hey man, you guys might want to look into this. We had a good chat with him. That's what sucks about all of this, is that all of this energy has been taken out of the room. And now the Sam Cedar guys can see like, see, you guys are fucking a bunch of dupes. This is, now we just need to get behind AOC. It's like, no, that's not what we need to do. What we need is a real, authentic third party that is by and for the people. That is still the solution. It just sucks because now it's so much harder to make that sales pitch. Because how do you get people's trust again? So now you've been fucked by the Democrats, the Republicans, the oligarchy. A lot of people didn't feel like the Greens were moving fast enough. So here's this shiny new party that vocalizes all the frustrations that many of us feel. Oh, okay, let's go there. That burns people. That's just a fucking grift, like everything else in politics. It seems like, how are you going to convince people when the real deal comes along now? That's another big fucking bummer about all of this.
Yeah, it's an absolute fucking disgrace. And the more and more we hear about this, the worse the picture gets. Here's some reporting from friend of the show, Jordan Sheridan. Status Quo has also learned MPP paid graphic design company Upstatement $20,000 for MPP's logo and other branding. Multiple MPP sources tell me that MPP is currently using their old logo, so I cannot confirm whether the new logo was ever delivered to MPP. And even if it was, $20,000 for fucking graphic design. What kind of shady shit exactly is going on here? What exactly the fuck are they using your guys' donations for? And again, there's a lot of people that donated to this in good faith, thinking they were supporting a good cause. Again, like Zach said, we were originally supporters of the People's Party too. After their convention they put on about over a year ago now, we were really inspired. We had a lot of chats with people that were interested and were downright promoting it on our show for a while, until again it was brought to our attention that there was a handful of ex-volunteers who were petitioning to make their grievances heard with the leadership, to describe the undemocratic nature of the organization and the abuses at the hands of Nick Brana. When that stuff came to light, because we actually have some ounce of fucking journalistic integrity, and again, we're just a bullshit clickbait drama channel, we actually talked to those volunteers and said, hey, we want to make sure we get our story right. If we're going to continue to talk about this organization, let alone promote it, we want to know what's actually happening inside. Because again, we actually give a shit. We talked to these people. We quickly realized the undemocratic nature of the People's Party, the fact that the volunteers were being abused, the fact that people felt like they were, wasting their time, energy, and lots of it for this wasted effort with no real organization or direction, and Nick Brana's, dictatorial control of it all. When that came to light, our opinions changed. That's what actual reporting looks like. That's what actual fucking journalism looks like. Not even to toot our own horns, but we're one of like the 3 people that actually got this right. So it's worth pointing out, just as a lesson for anyone out there that's, wondering about how to fucking, react to new information. But anyway, yeah, the more we find out about this, the worse it gets. And again, I'm just so disappointed in the fact that these volunteers, people that work their asses off for the third party goal, the people that care about breaking the duopoly just as much as me and you and anyone listening to this show, they were fucking smeared, and they have yet to be apologized for. I have no doubt that this will all be swept under the rug by you-know-who and everyone else who's promoted the People's Party. They will never offer a retraction. They will never apologize to us, obviously, but more importantly, the volunteers who actually made this stuff known from the very beginning and were, waving the red flag. Hey, there's a problem here. There's a fucking problem here. Maybe we should, address this at least, or maybe consider, a different route or option. There's major issues here that need to be addressed. And they weren't fucking addressed because everyone just wanted to manufacture consent for Nick Brana, their good friend Nick Brana. Let him keep coming on their shows and begging for your money, which went to bullshit reasons, went to filling his pockets and sketchy shit like this $20,000 graphic design.
Yeah, let's put up the logo for everybody to see, by the way. Yeah, so in case anybody's wondering, look at this shit. Okay, it looks like it was like 4 pieces of clip art that were stitched together. Okay, I mean, if they said they paid $1,000 for it, I would think they overpaid. Like, let's pull up the Vanguard. One, I do think it's really funny that if you scroll right quick, that's like our article, and it's like one of the first things that shows up when you Google movement for a People's Party. So, and also that image that we made of Nick Brana being the king as aged like fine fucking wine. But let me pull up our logo for you guys, and you can just fucking guess how much our logo cost that Gavin and I paid for before we'd made a fucking dime from our podcast, when I was living off of my money from my shitty corporate job, and I believe Gavin was just living off of unemployment. So if we could find it in our pocketbooks to get, I'm really happy with our logo. I think it's dank. I think it suits us, and I think we paid like $175 for it. And we just like emailed the lady and we were like, can you do something? And then she gave us like 6 different versions for like $175. This is the one we went with. Okay, $20,000 for your logo design. Somebody is getting way over, like they know, like there's shady shit going on there, guys. I'm sorry. That's indefensible. That is fucking defensible. If you know about how any of this works, like, I mean, fuck. I worked at a very, very expensive startup before I did this podcast, right? And we did an entire rebrand. Okay, we did an entire rebrand, and that was how much they spent on relabeling everything, ordering a bunch of new. It was about like $25,000 to redo everything. So unless they were, I don't know what the fuck they were planning on doing with this, unless they were printing out like 10,000 t-shirts, like a fuck ton of merchandise, like stickers, water bottle. That's the only way that I could think that this would even possibly make sense. But if it's just for the design portion of it, like, that's absurd. There's no way. Graphic design artists are tremendously underpaid in this country. Like, I'm not saying that $175 was the most I would have paid for our logo. I thought we would have had to pay a little bit more, but no. The rates are way lower than you would expect because people don't value art as much as they should. But it's not $20,000 is the point that I'm making. That's absurd. He should have to answer questions about this. He won't fucking answer any questions about anything, guys. That's your guy. If you're still pulling for the People's Party, this your dude, fam. Like, it's not too late to just wake up and be like, oh shit. These guys were frauds. They were full of shit, right? And I appreciate Jordan Cheriton for joining the the cause.
Yeah, straight up. And shame on everyone that continued to promote this fucking grift of an organization after this information was already readily available, not just thanks to us, but thanks to, again, Franco, who talked with these organizers, Ryan Grimm, who had them on Rising to discuss this, and everyone else who shined a light on what was very fucking clearly going on. Let's not kid ourselves.